Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. There's so much to celebrate today. March is Cabaret Month. It's also Women's History Month, and so our guest today will fall into each of those categories. It's also Stephen Sondheim's birthday, and Andrew Lloyd Webber's birthday, and my sister's birthday. So again, there's lots to celebrate. And of course, we have the one and only Anne Kittredge. Here is my very special Anne Kittredge mug with the two of us together, is my very special guest today. Full confession, I have been in love with Anne Kittredge from the moment that I first saw her on stage. To me, she is one of those consummate artists who is able to embody each song with a complete storyline. Even if you've heard the song before, you feel as if you are hearing that song again for the first time. Now, before I bring Anne on, I'm going to share with you just a little glimpse of her career, and then you will meet Anne Kittredge on the other side. And thank you for being here today. So let's see, here is Anne Kittredge.
Please welcome the wonderful Anne Kittredge.
I wanna see a rake or plow, and who the heck can probably boo a cow? You're gonna keep 'em down on the farm.
And someday soon, I know there you'll be. Downtown, she's holding hands on the L. Hyphenated Harriet, the nouveau from New Rochelle. Just a slow dance, and I'm slow. Shut up and dance. Wasn't smart. Oh, sweet mystery of life, at last I found you. I've got my garden. 'Cause morning rolls around and it's another day of sun.
And here she is. It's Anne Kittredge. I love you so much. I am so happy that you're here. I do want to say, for anyone who's here for the first time, my show is all about celebrating artists and their body of worth. And it is so much easier when I am celebrating a true friend as well. And I am so fortunate to call you friend. Thank you for being here today.
Back at you, buddy. Back at you. You are really something. You are so...
Well, this is all about you today. So I want to begin. We are still in the midst of this pandemic, although I know you've been vaccinated, and so have I. But I still have one more to go. But I want to ask how you're dealing with everything in the midst of everything that's going on, because in addition to being an artist, you are also a wife and a mother. So you've got those layers on top of everything else. I can't even imagine some of the stress that you probably have experienced in the past year.
Well, I mean, there's been so much because I'm also my mother's primary caretaker, and she's 94, but she's all alone. She's living all alone on Cape Cod. Um, that's probably been the biggest stressor for me, honestly, to be traveling back and forth. And I really, it's hard for all of us in this isolation. But what happens to an old brain when it's getting no stimulation? And we do steal hugs. Now we're going to be able to hug because we're all that vaccinated. But up until then, that's probably been the hardest emotionally for me. And I think that, there's been so much good that has come out of what we were forced to endure. And right now, I would say that my biggest concerns are with my children continuing to manage this. This has really screwed up youth's brains. And
Mhm.
I have absolute confidence that we're going to be able to turn this around, but I have absolute confidence that it's not going to happen overnight for children. I think that I
Mhm.
really hope that people understand that when schools open, it doesn't mean that the kids' problems are over. They have had to adjust to this. They've had to adjust to it so much that now it's the norm. And yet the norm is not good. They're not really functioning
Mhm.
the way they should be. And so to get them back into, a scenario in which we can help them get back to really what they developmentally should be doing, both socially and academically, it's a huge task. And I just want to alert everyone, children or no children. It's a huge issue that we're going to have to deal with. And so that's also a big thing that we're dealing with. But on the other side of it, we found out that we're a really good family. I mean, we've really gotten along. We've gotten even closer in some ways. I mean, granted, my 17-year-old has gotten further from us in some ways because he's like, I
Well,
don't
that's
live with
what happens when you turn 17.
exactly. But we still have those moments where, because he's nothing else to do, he'll sit down and talk with us. And, Bob and I won't even move a muscle because we don't want him to, if we move him, he might think he has to get up and go. So we don't move. We just as long as he's talking to us, we're there. So
Well,
yeah.
it's very funny how life plays these little mind tricks with all of us. There's your mug as well. So to you, here, camera, to you. Well, to you. So it's funny how life plays these little mind tricks on you. When I was 17 years old, not once did I imagine my parents at 17 years old. When I was saying to my parents, I'm leaving home to go to New York to be an actor from a farm in South Carolina, they did not know what hit them. But now I just turned 60, and I'm constantly thinking of my parents at the various ages that I've been growing up. And I think that that's something as we get older that we begin to do. You and I also have life experience behind us. I can't imagine what it's like for a young kid, especially younger kids that are in elementary school and even younger, and how they are adjusting to this new world. It might be easier, it might be harder. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a certain age where they just literally don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? There just doesn't really process. Maybe when you're 6 years old, you wear a mask when you go to school. You know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing. Like there's not a real understanding that this is so unusual. But to teach young kids over Zoom or Google Classroom, I can't. I can't process that.
With all due respect, Anne,
Yeah.
teach people our age to do a Zoom meeting. I went to, unfortunately, in this new reality, I went to a Zoom memorial yesterday, and we were almost half an hour late starting, just trying to get people to be able to mute themselves, be able to
Oh,
find
yeah.
themselves on camera, and all these things. And these are not kids. These are everyone's having to learn over and over again. But
Yeah.
I mentioned in my intro, you to me And it just sounds like I'm going to be worshiping at your feet today. And chances are I am. It's all about celebrating you. I want to go back to the small child. I know your son sent me a picture. I wasn't able to get it uploaded fast enough for today's show. But I want to go back to the 5-year-old Ann Kittredge. Is your family from Cape Cod? Is that where you?
No, Massachusetts, but not Cape Cod. Yeah, Central Mass.
Where exactly did your family grow up?
Clinton,
What's that
Mass.
near?
Huh?
What's that near?
It's between Worcester and Boston, and they were very, very proud of their Irish heritage. Very, I mean, like it was, you had to be Irish to be someone in Clinton. But my father, my grandfather was a judge. So he was the top of the social ladder in this small little town. And my dad married someone on the wrong side of the tracks.
Oh.
And she was born of Polish immigrants. And, my grandmother on my Polish side never spoke English. I mean, I never heard her speak English. And so that marriage caused quite a ruckus. And there was always this underlying thing that, there was just this underlying, like my mother's sister was my father's mother's maid. So, like there was just such a class difference. But my mother was always really, really good to everyone. She's just, the most amazing human being. And she was pretty well accepted, not completely, to be honest with you, but pretty well. My grandfather loved her. But yeah, so that was part of what I was raised in is, that. And then I found out when I was adult that we're not even Irish, we're Scottish.
Well, I want to ask you, how did those elements of your childhood really shape who you are today?
Well, I'm a proud person. I love a joke at the most inopportune times. I love inappropriate jokes. I get into trouble all the time because it's no longer appropriate to be inappropriate with your jokes. So it certainly gave me a sense of humor. My upbringing certainly gave me a sense of spiritual import. But, I needed to leave that town because I was not accepted. I was not the norm, and I didn't know how to be the norm. And
that's a good thing, at least for me. But let me ask, what was it about you that wasn't accepted? Was it your family background? Was it where you lived? What exactly was it?
No, it was just me. I think I was just a very strange person, and nobody knew how to. No one. I mean, my parents love me to death, but and I think my brothers do now. But even I mean, seriously, it was I was an odd bird. I was that odd bird, and it took me. I mean, in high school, I started to find myself, but yeah, I was not the popular kid by far. I was the weirdo.
And how did you find yourself? Was that through theater? Was it through arts?
Yeah, I think that my parents, I don't know if they did it for this reason, but I went to high school out of town. And this is a really small town. Everyone goes to the same schools. They sent me to a school out of town, and it was an all-girls school. And I love all-girls school. So it's great. It so empowers you. So I think I found myself there. I
interviewed Rita McKenzie yesterday, and she went to an all-girls school. So it's very interesting.
I'm telling you, I really think that it made the difference for me, and it began my belief in myself.
Were there any minuses for you going to an all-girls school, except for the fact that you're not seeing boys and that kind of thing? But
I'll tell you the minus. My high school actually closed down suddenly the end of my junior year. So I had to go to another school senior year, and it was a co-ed school. And so the downside of being at an all-girls school is you have absolutely no social skills with boys. You don't know anything about flirting. Like they're, the whole little, oh, I'm chilly. And I'd watch a guy give the girl a sweater and I'd be like, oh my God. I mean, like it just grossed me out. I was like, oh, this I got to do that now. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a little bit more self-sufficient than that. Thank you very much. But of course she was too. She was just flirting. Right. But I'm like, ugh. I've never been a big flirt. Let's put it that way.
Now, your household, you mentioned your brothers. Where do you fit in? Brothers, sisters? 8.
Baby. No, baby.
Oh,
I'm
baby.
the baby.
Okay, baby. I misunderstood you. You're the baby.
Yeah.
And did you grow up in a household where music or entertainment was the exception or the rule?
Oh, the rule. And what was really great is, my middle brother was really into hard rock. My dad was a disc jockey in the 50s and 60s. And so we had this incredible album library. And so we listened to music all the time. And so my first influences were the music of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, honestly. But I loved that. I mean, I didn't really like the music that my brother was listening to, but I even as a kid, I loved that my parents let him listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, I was definitely had the more old fashioned taste, but, and then, in high school, then I got much more, influenced by, pop music and stuff, but yeah.
And did you
And my
sing
mother
along?
sang.
Did you sing along with the records at home?
Oh, I did more than that. I mean, I memorized. I would play things over and over and over until it was memorized. And like, it's so funny, but even to this day, like one of my favorite recordings, which I could never sing, it's not appropriate for me to sing, but Little Tin Cup from Fiorello.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, if I hear anybody's going to sing it, it's like a religion for me. I just remember as a kid that harmony, the humor. It was, but it was one of those that I couldn't actually sing. But
So what was the moment? What was the pivotal moment for you where you said, this is what I want to do with my life?
Well, I was extremely shy in certain parts of my life when I was younger. And so when we transferred to a different school that senior year, that was really awkward too, because everyone had been together for 3 years. Nobody knew us, blah, 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 blah.
Was everyone dispersed or did
everyone was dispersed?
Wow.
Only one other person from my school went to the same school as I did. And and the class that we moved into had over 200 kids. So this particular school, and it had nothing to do with us going there, but this particular school was really well known for its musicals. It was the director used to get football players in the leads so that he'd get other football players in the chorus and stuff. Like it was a huge deal at the school. Everyone participated. And they double cast the show that year, and I got cast as one of the leads. And 90% of the school hated me for it because I was new. I didn't even know that I could sing. I mean, like I couldn't have been greener. You know what I mean? And so that was a lesson in confidence because nobody wanted me to succeed. Except the chorus. Can I just tell you this one thing? I didn't know what I was doing. I loved singing so much. Whenever we would have a show, a rehearsal where it was a song that I sang parts of and then the chorus sang parts of, I always showed up and I always sang with them because I loved it. I just loved it so much. So I have to admit, I did win over the chorus because they couldn't believe that I would do that. And I was like, why would I?
want you to think back for a few moments. I'm going to be your therapist.
Okay.
So I want you to think back. And when you say that everyone hated you for it, do you really feel that everyone hated you for it? Or was that something that you manifested in your brain?
No, a lot of people did not like it. Like they were really, they were very overtly not supportive. And on hindsight, I get it. at the time for me, it was almost like a lifeline, because
Well,
I
well,
was.
don't you feel that that still happens as now? I mean, I find, as you know, because you and I have had these conversations, I always try to stay in my lane, keep my blinders on, and be the best Richard Skipper that I can possibly be. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. But there are triggers. There are things that go on where I find that I'm jealous of this person's success or that. I'm being honest with you. And it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with whatever that person is processing at that time. But you did mention that you got cast in this show. What was the show?
Camelot.
And
the guy who was playing Lancelot's girlfriend was the other Guinevere.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
He was lovely. I have to say, he was. I mean, they. It was more of a silence than anything. It was more.
You felt it. You picked up on it.
Oh, yeah. There was no way not to. But I do get it. Looking back, I get it. And it's interesting. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I rarely feel jealous. And the reason is, I know this sounds so, but I don't mean it to sound pitiful, but I just generally assume that people are better than me. So I kind of enjoy the challenge, but also, I'm Buddhist. And so if I am inclined to get upset with someone because they got something that appears to me unfair, which I absolutely will admit, I that happens. I can't. It's impossible for me to not understand that from a karmic perspective, it is happening specifically because there's something for me to learn, and so it doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever for me to, it just doesn't. So I just don't go there. I will give myself a few minutes of, but I have to move on.
We all do. Absolutely.
And I'll be honest with you. I mean, and I really mean this. If you really want me to wish you well, be as awful to me as possible, because people who are really bad to me, I purposely, chant for their happiness, because if not, I will feed into the anger that they're trying to get out of me anyway. Right. So it's like, okay, I'm not that, because that's just going to put me in a totally bad place. This is the way I'm going to handle this. So.
I love this. But I want to ask you, going back, a two-part question here. Going back to you auditioning for Camelot, did you jump into the process, or did you slowly say, should I audition for it? Should I not audition for it? Did you waffle at all? Or were you just going after it gung-ho?
Oh no, I very shy. So the whole theater program had shows, and the psychology teacher was the director, and I had him in class, and he didn't know I had any talent, but he saw this shy new kid in town, and he said, audition, would you please audition for my show? And the first show I auditioned for him was, believe it or not, Streetcar Named Desire. And I got cast as Stella. Now, nobody cared about me doing Stella, because I don't think anyone knew what the hell this was. It was like, what are we doing? And also, it wasn't the musical. The musical is a big deal. So when the musical was coming up, he said, and I was like, well, I just don't even know if I can sing. And not that kind of singing, and yeah, so I did. And I 100% expected to be in the chorus. Like, absolutely. The other Guinevere was gorgeous, beautiful voice. I'm not quite sure why they decided to double cast it. I really have never been told why. But this has happened to me in other times in my career. Who was I to say no? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I was 17 years old, and and like, why would I second guess them and say, oh, no, you shouldn't give that to me. That's not my place. Now, I mean, and let me put it this way. you have to have an awful lot of self-awareness to be able to get there at 17. I wasn't there. So I just did it, and I dealt with the difficulties and, moved on from there. Yeah, my dad was very supportive of me. My mother loves me, and when I got cast in Camelot, she knows this now, but I kept it from her for decades. I heard her say to my father, well, Joe, I know she can act, but can she sing? And, for a kid to hear their mother lack confidence, it was a little like, oh God.
We'll
Oh,
compare
no.
notes on one of our other conversations. That's between you and me. But I want to ask you, how often did you get a chance to go on since you were double cast?
Half and half.
Okay. And that first night that you walked out on stage, the very first chance, now obviously you had already played Stella, but here you are in a musical, in a leading role. Were you able to fully enjoy yourself, or were those elements of still being shy and everything overwhelming to you?
Yeah, no, because I did enjoy myself. And I mean, I can't remember very specifically that, but I can tell you who I am as a performer. And as insecure as I can feel in rehearsals and all of those different things, um, I dig into the storytelling. And the reason I do that is because once I get on stage, it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the story being told. If it's about me, then yeah, I think I would be much harder for me to enjoy it. I'd talk about second guessing myself and stuff. I still second guess my choices, mind you, but there is just something that's like this little cocoon that I kind of put the show in. And when I'm in that cocoon, I am whoever I'm supposed to be. And I do it fully and really, really love it. I love the work. Well,
speaking of work, you had, by the time you made your Cabaret debut, which you won the MAC Award for debut performance. By the time you had gotten to that point, you already had this body of work. And I am using the word work in this instance, behind you. So were those elements, to take those elements of telling the story already in place for you coming into Cabaret? Or was that breaking that fourth wall, being connected with the audience, being in a more intimate environment? What were the pluses and minuses for you that you're bringing from the theater into that process, since it is Cabaret Month?
Yeah. So Cabaret is an entirely separate art form. And you can certainly extract certain skills you have from different other platforms, whether it's music, theater, film. You can, extract those things and use them for Cabaret. But Cabaret is, in my opinion, its own very unique art form. And I'm still learning it.
Mm-hmm.
I am finding, as time has gone, so now I've been doing it for 4 years. So I am finding that my storytelling seems to be getting more and more appreciated. But that's probably partly because I'm also understanding the art form of Cabaret and how to use it, right? More, better, whatever. So yes, the experience is useful, but it's foolish to think that just because you can sing or just that you can act, that you can do Cabaret. It's foolish. And it also, I came back to perform in Cabaret because I wanted a little bit more control. I also, to be completely honest with you, I wasn't sure I could do it anymore. I didn't know. I had left the business for 10 years to raise my kids. I didn't know. I didn't know. And so all that shyness came back, but there's something in me that's also very determined. And when I decide to do something, I will chance failure. I will chance failure to do it. So,
and I want to go there for just a moment. And, with respect to you and your husband and your children, there are some mothers who do work through children growing up and everything, that are working moms and everything. you made a conscious decision that you were going to put that aside and just solely concentrate on your children. What was the deciding factor for you beyond the obvious of the love that you have for your children?
It had nothing to do with love, actually. Really, that is a given. But yeah, no, it had nothing to do. It was two factors. I wasn't. I realized that I wasn't making enough money in theater to justify someone else raising my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't. I mean, I was making decent money, but it was basically all going towards the babysitter. And I was like, what is the point? And, we created our family through adoption. Why on earth did I bring these two children into our homes in order to hand them off to somebody else? I said in my first show, my first cabaret show, and it was really true, really true. I wanted my kids to know when they were 30 in therapy, who to blame. I wanted them to have access to the person who screwed them up. And, and I think I was also tired. If I'm going to be completely honest, I think I was tired performance-wise. I think I was. I think it was. I did perform for the first few years with my kids, and I was just so exhausted all the time.
I want to read a comment to you that someone just said, and she is a great mom with lots to share.
I'm sorry?
And she is a great mom with lots to share. That's from your husband, Bob.
Oh, my love, my husband. Oh.
I'm going to ask you a question about Bob, if you don't mind, and forgive me, Bob. But I mean, here you are in the business. Your husband is on the other side of the business. Mm-hmm. Were there huge adjustments, in terms of deciding to forge a life out together? And again, I go beyond the obvious of love that's there. I always say that my husband, Dan, we've been together 31 years. And I said, when he gets to the pearly gates, St. Peter's going to say, here's your Purple Heart. It is not easy. And no, it's true, because it is not easy living with a person in this business who is going through the ups and downs of, will I get this job? Will I not get this job? Why didn't I get this job? And it's not like this is one profession. For anyone watching who is thinking of jumping into this profession, you can go to college, you can go to school, you can have a wealth of knowledge behind you. But this is one career that doesn't operate in a linear fashion.
Yeah.
Oh, it's true. It's true. So how do you make it work for the two of you, especially during a pandemic?
So it was really funny, because I am an introverted extrovert. So I still gain my energy by being alone, mm-hmm. but I'm more than happy to be with people, So I'm used to being alone at home. My kids are now at school, right? In high school or college. So, and Bob is, he's an executive and he manages people. And so in the beginning, Bob was walking around the house and he'd come down and he'd check on me, and I was going nuts. I was like, what is he doing? Like every day, 2 or 3 times a day. And I'm like, what on earth? And I just couldn't imagine why he was doing it. Like, what do you think I'm doing? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I was just, and so eventually I finally exploded. I didn't explode, but I was just like, okay, why do you keep coming and checking on me? I'm fine. Why do you keep, and he went, he said, I'm so sorry. That's what I do when I work. I'm in the office and I do things, and then I walk around so that the people who work for me can see me, and I was like, oh, you're such a good person. I'm such a terrible person for, So he has decreased doing that. And I would never complain when he does, because I so appreciate that's what he does. But yeah, we have differing perspectives, because I'm the onstage perspective and he's the offstage perspective. Mm-hmm. and we have our disagreements.
Mhm. Well, I want to ask you this because I'm a very spiritual person, and I know that
Know
you're a
that.
Buddhist, and that this is a major element of your life,
I
and
do.
Bob's also.
Mhm.
But Buddhism wasn't always there.
No.
What was it about Buddhism that attracted you, and how has it impacted your lives, both as husband and wife who both practice Buddhism, and I'm going to assume, I could be wrong, that your family all practice Buddhism.
Yeah, no one else. The rest of our families are all the religion that we
Mhm,
were born with, and my children are suspect, and that's okay
mhm,
because one of the things that we believe is that your spirituality has to be a personal decision,
mhm,
and no matter how committed you are as an adult or a parent, it doesn't happen through osmosis. They have to have that experience. So, they're seeing our lives, and hopefully that reflects on them and their choices. But at the same time, they're going to make their decisions when they're adults. And right now they kind of go along with what we do just because that's what they
mhm.
know. Um, but yeah. So, did I answer your question? What was it?
No, I asked, what was it that brought you toward
Oh,
to
so
Buddhism?
so I started to um really have an issue with um other people determining whether I was good or bad. I mean, similar, honestly, to doing Guinevere in Camelot and everyone going, "Oh, what's she?" or anything else when I was a little kid and, loser, she's such a loser and all these different things. And it was like, all of these definitions of me that were outside of me. And so I started this journey and I really got into Native American spirituality. I loved that for quite several years, but it didn't complete what I was looking
Mhm.
for. And I was in a friend's house and I saw this book and just like I was reading other books, I was reading all different religions. I was really searching and it just changed as arrogant as this sounds. I said to my husband, honey, this book says what I think. Like, like Buddhism's existed for 3,000 years, but boy, it agrees with me.
It agrees with you. I
Agrees with
love that. Not I agree with it. It
Yeah,
agrees with
it
me.
agrees with me. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I think I might have found it." And it's only elevated my perceptions, of course, but
Was it an easy decision for the two of you to make this together?
well, Bob thought I was joining a cult at first, and he was very suspect. But he is, the perfect and only person for me because, he would never try to control me. So, he looked on with great concern.
Mhm,
But then after several years, just being around it so much and seeing how it made me a better person, I think that he started going, oh, okay. And then my husband is loves to read. So then he read the book. He said he read the same book that I read.
mhm,
And since then, he's read literally dozens and dozens of other books. And even when we were practicing in a different religion earlier on, he
mhm,
was doing it for me because he always had a much more philosophical perspective on
mhm.
spirituality, which is what Buddhism is. Buddhism is an incredibly philosophically perspective on religion. Um, and so he already came from that kind of approach. So eventually he found his way into the practice and now he's, yeah.
That's great. And are there, I mean, still moments in your life? I mean, we're all human. Are there trigger points for you in this business that trigger you either to move in the right direction or just make you go, wait and stop? What are the triggers for you in this business?
Oh, I struggle with my confidence terribly. I mean, it's um, and I think it's more I think I do it to myself
Mhm,
more than others. Like I don't believe compliments if they don't comport to what I think. Um uh and if I'm working with someone, uh and all I'm getting is criticism. I mean, I love criticism. I mean, I crave it if it's positive and to make me better. I really do crave it. But it's not everyone's criticism is for that reason.
Well, I have a rule of thumb when it comes to criticism. If it's going to help me, I want to hear it. If it's not going to help me, and this is going to sound egotistical, but I have a very strong sense at this point in my life of who I am. And so if it's going to not help me, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. And that's not meaning that I'm not listening to it, because I'm always open to it. If it's going to hurt me, please keep it to yourself. Because I don't see the need to say to anyone on this planet something just for the sole purpose of hurting that person. And there are those out there as well who they make that their way of going through life.
Yeah. That is true. And when but I have to say though, I don't read this way, but I have so much insecurity about my abilities even to this day. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that I dig so deep into the work, because I really, really do love the work. That, then I can blame the work.
And was there ever a piece of criticism that came your way that falls into any of the categories that we just discussed that really changed your course?
I don't know if people know Mel Shapiro. He is a Tony-winning director, writer. He ran the school at Carnegie Mellon when I was there. And he cast me a lot. It's really funny because he cast me a lot. He even cast me outside of school. Like when I graduated, and I never got the impression that he liked me. And my husband would be like, how can you say that? The man keeps casting you. But, Mel was not the type of person to say, oh, I really like your work at all. What he would always point out is the thing that was missing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think that Mel is one of the very few genius directors I've ever worked with, because he would know what to say to me to get the response. And maybe that's why he liked me so much, because he knew how to speak to me. But he did say something to me once that haunted me for decades, until I wrote him a letter about it. And it was that affecting. Is I remember him saying to me, he wasn't talking about food. He wasn't talking about makeup. He was talking about my work. And he said, you know what the problem is with you? He said, you have no taste. And that really shook me for a very long time.
Where did that come from?
We were doing a very bizarre version of Beggar's Opera, which is three-penny opera. We were doing kind of a combo. We were doing the two things together. And it was a pretty far out there production. And I was the pregnant woman, Polly, big fat pregnant woman. And in the middle of rehearsal, the guy playing my father started using this really, really bizarre, hysterical accent. And so I thought that I should try it too, because he's my father. Yeah, it bombed. I just couldn't do it. It was just so unique to him. And I'm pretty good with accents, but I could not. And
no, you are definitely great with accents. I'm going to shift gears very dramatically right now.
Woo, okay.
Because I'm watching the clock, and I definitely want to make sure that we talk about virtual shorts. Virtual shorts is the new project that you start doing, which is born right out of the pandemic. I know for a fact from many conversations that you and I had that you were very trepidatious and cautious about coming into this virtual world with your work until you felt that it was right. So if you could just give a very quick description of what virtual shorts is all about. I'm going to share a clip, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about what you're doing and what's coming up with virtual shorts.
Okay.
So if you can give us a very quick
So
description.
Virtual Shorts is a series that is having performers stay in their own homes and without any latency issues perform live into other people's audience homes. With no
Okay. And we're going to share a clip and we'll talk about this on the other side.
We're going to do a little Edelweiss for you. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small and white, clean and bright, you look happy to meet me, blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss,
Every morning you greet me, small and white, clean and bright. You look happy to meet me.
blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow, bloom and grow
Edelweiss, Edelweiss, my homeland
Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland forever.
That is just perfection. I mean, first of all, Steve Ross, Christopher Denny,
Yes.
Matt Berman doing the technical end of it,
Yes, he's really
and
good.
Jam Kazam. All these elements come together. When, where, and how did you first hear about Jam Kazam?
From David Sabella. And David said, you should reach out to Chris Denny, because Chris Denny and I still have not met in person. We
You
only know each other through the Jam Kazam.
Oh my God, I just
know.
love Christopher.
That's the world, right? So David said, you should reach out to Chris, and so I did, and we started working, and as you know, I was really struggling. What am I going to do? And what I had to do was, if I was going to find a way to continue to be creative, I had to find a way that benefited others beside me. And I had to. If not, I would not I can't. I just can't put energy into just getting up and singing. I just can't. So, as we were working and I was working with Matt to set up my studio, it just hit me. I went, "Oh my gosh. We're going to do this and we're going to draw people in so that we can create this family in Jam Kazam and we can keep making music." I mean, this next show I have LaTanya Hall, the kick-ass jazz.
This Friday.
Yes.
But the thing is, they're called virtual shorts because they are virtually short.
They're short. They're short because we don't want to crash and burn.
Yeah, half an hour. Is that how?
It's usually a half an hour or less. And Steve Mosher had commented on how there's no glitches, and it's because we're keeping the show short because it is still a developing.
I want to say something. I read in prep for today's show. I read the review that he gave. Stephen Mosher through Broadway World of Virtual Shorts, and the fact that he says that he now binge watches virtual shorts, and I loved that. Stephen Mosher, we love you in the cabaret world, so keep doing what you're doing. But you have brought these other guests into the show, and all of these elements seem to come so seamlessly together. But I know you, Anne, well enough to know that you don't just sit in front of the camera and turn it on and do it. There's a lot of prep that goes into this. It's a lot of work.
Well, one thing that was really, I took it completely as a compliment, but it's actually incredibly untrue, is Stephen said in his review that, I am just speaking off the cuff, and obviously I have no plans of what I'm going to say or anything, and it's just all natural. And it's like, yeah, no.
Don't give away your secrets.
I actually kind of, I don't have it. I'm not reading it, but it's, what you do. You do your research, you figure out how you're going to link everything together, and then you don't know what your guests are going to do. And so you kind of keep yourself open to whatever they're going to bring to the mix. And then it's over.
So what's coming up with virtual shorts? Can you give us a little exclusive today on some of the guests that you have waiting in the wings?
So yes. So Marianne McSweeney is going to be April 9th. And this is going to, so we had Steve and Chris did that piano duet, which was a big deal. Again, latency. It was a big deal. Now we're going to add strings. So we're going to see what happens when you add a bass player. It's going to work. We know it's going to work, but and I do also want to point out one of the other great things about the show this Friday with LaTanya, who's just this kick-ass jazz musician, is she's in Michigan. So we're going to have two people in Michigan, and then Chris and I in New York making music together. And then Sean Harkness, we haven't scheduled an actual date yet, but we've been talking back and forth. He's really a little bit reluctant because he's worried about the latency with the guitar. But on the other side, he keeps writing me, when do I get to be on your show? So
well, what I love about what you're doing with this show is that you are also, with each show, pushing the envelope just a little further.
Right.
Jam Kazam is a fairly new idea. Did it come about because of the pandemic, or was it already in place prior to this?
It was very rudimentally. Thank you. Rudimentarily.
I know what you mean.
Let's make a word.
Yes.
Rudimentarily. It's a word. We made it up because that's what words are, to be made up. It had existed for several years. I think Chris Denny kind of found it somewhere, and he became very involved with the creators. He's in contact with them on a regular basis. So they have really improved it dramatically. And I think by the end of March, it's really going to be even more amazing. One of the things when you watch our show, the video isn't quite the quality we want yet, but it's going to get there. It'll get there.
You're getting there.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Matt Berman, who also helped.
He's a star.
He's a star. We just love him. Thanks for all that he does. Reach out to these people, folks. You don't do this alone. We are almost at the end of our show, but I've got a couple of questions that I want to ask just to wrap it up.
Okay.
This is Cabaret Month. I want to ask you, and check your ego at the door or bring it along with you.
Okay.
It's Cabaret Month. How has Cabaret shaped you? And how have you shaped Cabaret?
Oh, wow. How has Cabaret shaped me? It has thrilled me to learn a new art form. Like it's given me, you know, a, a, a fire. It's given me a fire because there's so much to learn and there's so much that you have to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and it's also really challenged me socially because the social part's always been the harder part for me. So it's really, but in a good way. Again, it's getting me out of myself. It's getting me out of my comfort zone, which is all really good. And what have I brought to Cabaret? You know what I hope I've brought? My goal is for everyone who works with me or is a part or has chosen to give me their time to watch what I'm doing. My goal is that all of them feel that they are being cared for by me and that they are appreciated and that we are all really um really in every experience, whether it's just Alex and I working rehearsal or we get the whole band together and all these different things, that every single experience that people feel that sense of community, even if it exits when they exit out the room. I really want people to feel that I care for them because I do. I mean, I literally focus on I hope my audience is healthy. I hope that they don't have an accident. I hope that I think of these things before I go out on stage and days before I go, hope the weather's decent, and if not, people better stay home so that they don't hurt them. So you know what I mean? Like, so
I want to share something with you. I'm reading, later this week, I'm going to be interviewing Ron Fassler with his book, Up in the Cheap Seats. And Richard Kiley said that when he was on the train going to the theater, he's never reading a book or listening to music or anything. He picks a kid or someone on the subway, and he imagines that kid and what it is that he wants to bring to that kid to give them something. And so when he goes to the theater, or when he went to the theater, he would pick a seat in the theater and he would imagine that kid or that person sitting in that seat, and he would perform his show to that person.
wow.
And that was what it was about. I want to ask you, also in keeping with Women's History Month, name 4 women who have influenced Anne Kittredge.
Eleanor Roosevelt, Judy Garland, my cousin Hetty, and my mother.
That's wonderful. I want to thank you. I love you, Anne.
I
And
love you. This is so fun. It went fast.
You are welcome here anytime. I want to let everyone know, if you are around tomorrow afternoon, and I'm very excited about this. Were you a fan of The Wizard of Oz growing up?
Oh, yeah. Hello.
I am going to be interviewing Christiana Rickard, who is Ray Bolger's niece. And but this book that she's written is not just a biography in the sense of a biography. She really takes these allegories of Oz and everything and philosophies that her uncle brought to the family and how it's impacted her life. And it's an incredible read. I just love the book because The Wizard of Oz is such a part of my growing up. Anyone who knows me knows that when it was the yearly viewing with the family where we would sit down to watch it. So I'm very excited about this. I also want to thank everyone for being here today. If you enjoyed the show, and I hope you did, please, 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 please leave a comment on whatever platform it is that you're listening to or watching this on. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment there. Hit the like button if you like today's show, because what that does is it increases the ranking of each show that we do, and it gives this show more visibility. Tell your friends about the show. That's how we grow an audience. And I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list, and the fourth name that pops up, reach out to that person with a phone call. Not an email, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And let that person know what they mean to you. Because as our dear friend David Friedman says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And you never know what someone is going through at this time. And Anne, I want to give you the final word. Anything that you want to expound upon that we talked about today, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message that you want to put out to everyone who's watching now. And remember, everyone, Friday afternoon at what time?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock through Facebook and YouTube?
Not Facebook, just YouTube.
Just
my YouTube channel.
Yes. So, and the information will be on my timeline on Facebook. Please, please, please join me as we celebrate Anne even further with LaTanya Hall. So you got the final word.
Final word. Just everyone who joined us today, I am so grateful. This was really fun. You know, I purposely didn't talk to Richard in advance because I didn't know what he was going to ask me. So it was a total joy, and you know, just wishing everyone, you know, the love of their family or the love of their dear friends. And we are going to be, I just did a show earlier today with Alex Rybeck, and I sang Embraceable You, and it had a totally different meaning. And I said to the audience, I said, we will be embracing soon. So
Amen. Amen. I love you. Thank
love
you.
you. Thank you.
Bye.